Hello, everyone. I'm Irina Baker, an awareness mentor, and I'm here with a wonderful lady. I've known her for quite some time, and I really love her. And so I'm very excited that Beth Banning is here with me today, and she's going to talk about her new book, Interviewed by God. So, first of all, she is a best-selling author, an inspirational speaker, and a spiritual catalyst who lives in California with her husband, their cat, and their 6-pound poodle. And she's going to show this poodle right now and tell us what's her name.
You can't help it after you say that. And since we're on camera, I might as well, right? So this is Petra. And
Hi, Petra.
she's like going, will you just leave me alone? I was on the floor. I was happy. But, she's so dang cute. We call her our smile magnet because we walk down the street and from blocks away, people smile at us. So we're always getting smiles. So that's Petra. So I wanted to introduce her. But I'll put her down because she really wants to get on the ground.
That's the cutest doggy. And they say when you move somewhere and if you want to meet new people, get a dog. And
Right.
I think I should add to that, if you want to everybody to smile at you, get a cute dog.
I'm telling you, it's amazing. We went on vacation without her one time and nobody was smiling at us. We were like, what is wrong with everybody? And we realized, oh my God, it's the dog. So I had to start smiling again at people, because I never have to now because everybody's always smiling at me first. Because that's sweet. It's funny, isn't it? But thank you for bringing me on. I'm really excited about the interview.
Oh, absolutely. It's a pleasure. It's a delight. We're going to have so much fun and we will learn a lot, I'm sure, from you. And Beth is committed to helping others discover their inner source of divine wisdom for themselves so they can fully experience the essence of who they truly are. And of course, that is right up my alley. That's why I really wanted you to be here and invited you. And let's go with the questions.
Oh, thank you.
So, first of all, I would like to know personally what inspired you to write this book, Interviewed by God.
Well, my story really starts like most people who are listening, I'm imagining. And I love it because you really are like, I'm preaching to the choir. I know you and your audience and people that will be listening to this really do have a sense of everything I'm talking about. So that's really fun. So I love that I'm preaching to the choir with you. But what really happened was that I didn't know that everything I was seeking was right within me. I didn't know that I wasn't connected with my inner source. I didn't trust myself. I didn't even really know there was inner guidance or what that meant or why it was important. And at that point, back when everything was happening, I didn't even really know I was seeking something. I just wanted to be happier, like so many people do. All I knew is that there was something missing or something wrong or something wasn't quite right or something like that, with me, the world, the people around me. But what I knew for sure is that there was always this underlying agitation or irritation, and I just wanted it gone. So do you know kind of what I'm talking about? That feeling, that just kind of that underlying sense? Do you know what I mean?
Of course I do. And in fact, I'm listening to you right now thinking how much in common we have because when I lived in Russia, I had no idea religion was prohibited, spirituality. We don't even think about spirituality. I'm talking just even basic stuff, the religion that's been there for years, for centuries. And it was not really for everybody. And I had no idea. I had no idea about any of it. And then had to gradually get there. So definitely know intimately what you're talking about.
Yeah, I had to turn my phone down. I realized my ringer was on. And it's so funny because so many of us have this and we haven't a clue. So I was talking to a friend of mine, Roger, and I started telling him about this. And he was just like, oh my God, I get that. And so many people listening, I'm guessing, get it too. And he was so really hysterical. He was so intrigued by this idea that he started asking people. He actually went to a meetup or something, and he started talking about what I was talking about, this underlying sense of agitation. And he asked people to raise their hand, like who understood what he was talking about. He said 90% of the people in the room raised their hand. They knew exactly what he was talking about. And this is really what happens to us. This underlying agitation becomes the norm. It like builds up in us, and we just end up kind of white knuckling it through all this discomfort and pain. And we just keep like happy faces on because we think that's what we're supposed to do. And we're all kind of in knots inside trying to like figure out what's going on. And like most of us are just wondering, like, how do we get what we want, and how do we finally, be happy? And like really the majority of us aren't even aware of it. That's what blew my mind. I didn't even get it till it was gone. Do you know?
Right. I was aware because I knew exactly it was in my chest area, and I call it deep sense of dissatisfaction, which interestingly enough, I teach about this too. So inner sense of dissatisfaction that people have. And I call it also, I was always like a hamster on a treadmill, running into nowhere, because the dissatisfaction pushed me somewhere. But initially, I didn't know what it was and how to overcome it.
Yeah.
And only later, when it was completely gone, I knew what it was. So it's quite interesting. All right, so you write in your book, you write about growing up filled with doubt, confusion, and fear. And why do you think you've been successful overcoming it, all those feelings, while so many people struggle their whole entire lives?
Yeah, well, really, because most people are only searching to be comfortable and avoiding being uncomfortable. And I think why I've been successful is because I'm willing to be uncomfortable. And I think that in part the success for being comfortable, like with the uncomfort, is where I started. Many people try finding their peace and happiness by starting with a spiritual solution alone, and they jump wholeheartedly into this, and they're like so excited, and it doesn't help. And they think it's not working because they're not doing it right, or they need to do more, or they need to like wear white and buy the perfect candles and look deeply into people's eyes, or they think if you're spiritual, you never get angry, and they're supposed to be loving and compassionate all the time. And if there's, that when these things don't happen, they're devastated. And this, I think, is such a problem, because what happens is they go and they meditate and they do all these things, and they sense that peace. And I know you know what I'm talking about, is that peace, but they go home and then they beat themselves up because they're not, like, it doesn't last for them. And this isn't spiritual. This is like nuts, They try so hard what they think, being spiritual is, and they're like exhausted. And what it is, and again, I love talking to you about this, because you always have something, because this is really what you teach as well so beautifully, is it's spiritual bypass. It's using their spirituality and ignoring like the rest of themselves. Because it's one thing to find peace like on the meditation mat or in yoga or sitting in a church, and it's another to take that peace home when you leave.
Do you believe, Beth, that a person has to change the entire lifestyle to find inner peace or wisdom?
I people What people are really looking for, but most of them just don't know it, is to reconnect with ourselves. It's our inner source of guidance and wisdom, but it's hard when there's so many distractions, especially by the mind and the outside world. So there's plenty of good news about this. You don't really have to change anything. You don't have to change your outward circumstances, because it's totally an inside job. This is all about changing your perspective, changing your thinking. And when you change your perspective, the world that is there right now changes. It's like magically people around you start to change, and not because you're focusing, which so many of us do, on changing them. It's because you're focused now on living your life from the inside out. And when my husband and I work more closely with people, we hear this all the time. It's like, my wife's totally different, or I love my job now, where they couldn't stand going to work before, or finally I'm making money in my business. And we see this all the time, and we tell them it seems like that it's changing out there, but really what's changing in here. And it's like so heartbreaking to me to watch people suffer. I mean, it's why I'm so glad you're around. There's so many of these amazing teachers who teach this stuff. It's because there's simple solutions to finding peace and happiness, no matter what the circumstances in your life are. The problem is most people are going about this wrong. And it's like the Einstein quote. One of my favorite quotes is, you can't solve a problem using the same kind of thinking that created it.
Yes, they say it's sign of insanity, right?
Exactly.
You are so right about it. I've been preaching it all this time as well. So it's definitely
It's
if
gonna
people
take all of us, There's
if
a big
people
world.
understand, when people understand, life will change, because
Yeah.
it changed my life. I could attest to that.
Mine too.
I left Russia to find a better life in America, and when I arrived to America, I realized that nothing changed, because I brought my issues with me. So now,
What do they What do
yeah,
they say? It's like, it's not the boy. You keep attracting the same, in like relationships, it's like you attract the same person, just with different hair, because the situation seems exactly the same. So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And it gets worse because the universe is getting tired of doing it. So let's give you maybe stronger example. Maybe you will wake up by that time. So don't wait until
The
when
brick.
the really situation becomes dear, because you need to start changing now
Yeah,
in order
that's right.
to improve your life. You're
Listen,
so
listen
right.
to the listen to the taps instead of the 2x4, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Let's switch a little bit to with my next question. I would like to ask you about the material world, because a lot of people, you were talking about spiritual people who, at least they try to be spiritual. They think that by meditating or doing all kinds of spiritual things, they will find peace and happiness. How about those people who look for material things and they think that material things will make them happy? So, what do you think? Do material or tangible items of physical reality make us happy?
You know, it's just what I was saying before. It's our perception. And don't get me wrong. Like, I love it. This is the other way people attempt to make themselves comfortable. And like I said, I live in a beautiful house. I like driving a nice car, and we all have those things we want. But where did we get this idea that the outside world, these things outside of us, were going to get us, make us happy and save us from this discomfort? And, really, it's not surprising, because at a very young age, we are all taught that, to go for the gold star, to go for the good job because you earn money. Our parents like, go to school because that's the better job. We're not taught to look inside. We're not taught to source from the source of where we are meant to source from. And obviously, like I said, again, it's about perception. And if you're just looking to create that happiness from the outside, you can look around you. It's obviously not working very well because we're all stressed out and we're working too hard and we're way less happy than we want to be. So again, it's all about perception.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. And we also, a lot of children, that's how it even starts at school. Children look for recognition or for approval, or we teach them that way, the old educational system,
Yeah.
to look for approval from teachers and coaches. And, oh, you're a good basketball player, or you're a good student, you're a star student. But that's outside the recognition.
Right.
And that's how I guess students already learn to look for outside. If I have a great job, then something is good about me. If I have that great house, something, it tells something about me.
Exactly. And even the best parents, I mean, it starts in the crib, even the best parents, because it's the paradigm. It's all about what's right, what's wrong, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. And if you look at any of those things, that's sourced from outside, not from inside. We're never
Exactly.
asked to look in and go, how does that feel to you? I mean, that is not something we hear. So, here we are, here we are.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So in your opinion, Beth, what is the first step a person could take to find lasting happiness and peace and that serenity inside that we're talking about?
Mm-hmm. So really, we've got to start, it's again back to the Einstein quote, we've got to start looking at this from a whole new angle. And the very first place to start is changing our thinking in relation to our cultural conditioning. And this is just what we were talking about a second ago. All those things we think are true, all those unquestioned cultural and even spiritual crap that we hold as the truth. And we hold them as the truth without ever checking in for ourselves. Because until we get rid of what we think it's supposed to be, we can't experience what's possible. And there's this great story, and honestly, I don't know if it's actually true, but it speaks to this point so well, is that the Aztecs, when they first, like native cultures, when they first saw the big ships from Europe, they didn't recognize them as ships. They actually thought that mountains kind of appeared out of the water overnight because they didn't have a relationship with this new thing. They could only wrap their minds around it if they put it in the box of something they already believed, something they already thought was true. And the idea is that anything really new or unexpected, like you didn't know it was coming, is so like ridiculously out of the realm of what the mind is ready to perceive that the mind ignores it. Or like the Aztecs did, they make it into something they think is already true. So this is when I really want people to get. So in this talk, and when Irina's talking to you, is when we tell you that it's really possible to look inside yourself and to know that you have all the answers that you have ever needed and ever will need, and you start feeling skeptical about this, know that it's just something you haven't experienced yet. And when we tell you that it's really possible to feel confident about your decisions and let go of like the regret we hold and causes some of this tension that lives in us, know that, and you're like, and we hear our minds go, yeah, but it's like really natural in change to fight things that are unexpected. So like, just take a deep breath. Like if you hear yourself go, yeah, but just take a deep breath and see what else is possible. And when we tell you things like it's possible to stop judging and defending yourself all the time, and you start feeling uncomfortable and want to argue, just remember it's a normal, normal, normal part of change. And really, this is life. This is what, and it's back to what I said before. It's that we're looking to be comfortable. And life sometimes isn't comfortable. And when we start being willing to experience all of life, our world will open up. And so here's a quick way to start. Are you okay if I kind of do a little teaching thing?
Sure.
Okay. So when something happens that you don't like, and I love this analogy, it supports me all the time, because again, just because you're spiritual doesn't mean that bad things don't happen to you. So there are things that happen in my life that I don't like. And what I do is I remember that feelings are like the weather. They come and they go. And this is true for good feelings and for feelings that are uncomfortable. So don't argue with it. Like when it rains, we don't argue with the rain and say, you're not supposed to be raining. Stop raining. We don't argue with the rain. We just grab an umbrella, right? And we wait for the sun to come out, or we sit by the fire, or, we have things, because rain is natural. So as you're feeling uncomfortable, just be willing to experience those feelings. And start just watching them move by like the weather, and this is not only true for like uncomfortable feelings, but it's true for good feelings. Don't hold on to them either, because it's all energy, and energy needs to move.
That's exactly right. Beautifully said. And as you were saying it, Beth, I got a feeling right now, and it's a very strong feeling, and I'm trusting it, that people who are going to hear it, this is the very strong message. I know some people, maybe all, maybe not, but I know people will be listening to this particular point, and they need it in their life right now. So that's a strong message, and I really encourage everybody to really pay attention, because these are the words of wisdom, and you need to do those, to apply those words. All right, my next question is about your journey, because as I understand, Beth, your journey required a lot of letting go. Spiritual journey is all about a lot of letting go, that's for sure. I can attest to that too. And one of some of the examples are, you had to let go of ideas of money or how we communicate with others. So what's the payoff? You letting all go, and what happens? What's the result?
Why should I let go of anything and be uncomfortable? What's the point? I know that's a great question. So again, once you look inside, and I mean really look inside you begin to start trusting yourself and your own inner guidance, probably for the first time. And as you relax into the life you have, you're able to see the beauty of it and the gift of it. And again, maybe for the first time, you'll be able to sense the essence of who you really are. Really, that's it, is we don't know who we are. We're told who we are. We're told who we should be. We think we know who we are. We're always trying to figure out who we are. But again, this is all really, for most of us, from outside. You can finally stop defending yourself, and stop defending what you want and what you think. It's because really being true to ourselves is the freedom we're all looking for. But hold on for a minute, because this really is an important point. If you, and again, I know that with all the amazing spiritual teachers out there, and just teachers in general, so pay attention to this in all areas of your life. If you find yourself saying, I've heard this before, or I get it, I want you to stop and think again. Because if you really get this, you'd have the life you want. You'd already be able to trust yourself and your inner guidance, and you would be like being led to everything you want. So this, like, I know this already, it is such a trap, and it keeps us stuck right where we are. So I can, it can be totally challenging to integrate new ideas into your life. And this is because if something new is true, then your old ideas become wrong, and that feels really uncomfortable. But if we're right, our beliefs are right, then we're okay. If someone agrees with me, then I'm okay. And even better, if a lot of people agree with me, I'm even better. And this, is why, like, there's the pack mentality, and we all get into these groups and we go, with the big group and what they're saying. We don't want to kind of walk a different path. And it's not surprising, because most cultures were taught that being wrong is a problem. So we avoid it like the plague. But once people start really getting this stuff, it doesn't take long to start turning all these misconceptions upside down. So I always suggest to just keep it simple at first and just focus on getting reacquainted with your internal guidance. And I know, Irina, you teach this so beautifully, because when we reconnect, because I don't want to say connect, because we are connected, but when we kind of open that channel again to that source, we immediately perceive what has always really been there that you've been unable to see, just like the Aztecs, and a whole seemingly new world opens up for you. So just keep it simple.
It's beautifully said, and I hear it as another very, very important message here. Beth is just sharing an amazing information. And really, if you hear it, if you heard it, of course, I'm sure you've heard some of it, but like she's saying, you have to feel it first of all, and you have to apply it. And if you are hearing this again right now, if it's not new to you, but that means it's a message. There is a message for you, and it's coming back again and again to tell you, okay, what do you do about it? Don't just hear it and say, I know it, but go within and do something about it.
Beautiful.
Do you have any tips for people? And that's what in fact, I was just talking about. Let's do something about it. Not just saying, oh yeah, I've read about it or I've heard about it, but what can we do right now? What can we start with to be to explore the idea of inner guidance?
So during my journey, I've discovered for myself that there are three main access points to inner guidance. And getting conscious and connected to these three are the fastest path to peace and happiness that we're all looking for. And the three realms are the mental realm, the physical realm, and then the soul spirit realm. And the majority of us only access the mental realm, but we access it unconsciously. But if we can start to access it and use this realm consciously to create our reality, what we can do is start turning that out of control mind, which is just going nuts if we start paying attention to it, into the ally it was meant to be. It really is meant to be our ally. So don't try to get rid of it, but it's really just get it under control. And there are ways to do this. And then the physical realm is where we can actually, oh my gosh, like when I was able to start accessing this physical realm, this is where it just blew everything open for me, because it's where we can actually feel the connection and the guidance that our body has to offer. And this access point is also where we can, start clearing the stagnant energy within us. And you can just somebody said to me, I get what happiness is, but I don't quite get what joy is. And what I have found is that the physical realm is happiness, like knowing happiness and then feeling it in your body is what creates joy and even bliss. So when you learn to really access this physical realm, it can open up things that you may never have experienced before. And then the third access point is the soul spiritual realm, which is kind of that otherworldly. But the kind of access that I'm talking about is really personal, like personal, ongoing, daily access. It's not just, by accident or once in a while. We've probably all had experiences of watching a beautiful sunset or hearing a baby laugh, or those times when, your family are together and just, you just get, there's so much more to reality than we perceive on our daily basis. But again, there is a possibility of this being done like systematically to open up that direct access between you and the source of all knowing, like, so that you can have that every time, anytime you want it. So again, to answer your question more directly, the best way is to reconnect with your inner guidance. And it's to really get familiar with playing around and practicing with each of these access points.
Very good. Very good. Let's talk about you a little bit. You really open with about your personal struggles in life and share your personal story generously. And now it seems like everything came together for you. You're nicely put together, I could say, and you exude kindness and warmth and serenity every time I'm around you. It's just an amazing feeling that comes from you, and you're really personable and approachable and just wonderful. You create wonderful environment around you. So how were you? How was it? How were you able to make it happen?
First, thank you. I love hearing that people can feel how I feel, so that's really fun. So thank you for that. And, really the thing is, when you learn to access, it's really about accessing your inner guidance. When you learn to access these three areas, like spontaneously, like anytime, this is how we're designed to work. So when you can access these areas spontaneously, this is what people call embodied spirit. That's the only thing really I'm here to do anymore, is to embody spirit on earth. And that really is true heaven on earth. But it didn't happen to me overnight. It was a process. And yes, eventually you want to embody all three of these areas. But what I find over and over again is the fastest access to opening up to a different reality is to transform this mind area. Like, don't forget about it. It's so important. We need to shift our minds into the allies and not the defender, always defending ourselves from the world. Again, remember all that tension, like that underlying tension? We are constantly defending ourselves, even if it doesn't, like, you're not aware of it. It's like, it's always there, because again, the mind, somebody said to me once, and I don't remember where I heard this, but they said the mind is a bad neighborhood. Don't go there alone. Because left on its own, the mind will keep us stuck every time. And not just stuck, but stuck in that agitated, like fearful state I was talking about. And this is where the majority of us find ourselves most of the time. And I wrote this book really to help people who are having the challenges I had, people who know that there's something not quite right, and deep down inside, they know there's a better way, and in this book, you'll see I struggled, just like you were talking about, Irina. I mean, I have had a lot of struggles, and especially with this mental piece. People say they're skeptical. I was skeptical about everything. My mind was like, keeping me safe like crazy, and nobody could tell me any different. And especially when I started dipping my toe into the spiritual world, it was like, I remember like the first time, like I'm from New York and I moved to California, and oh my God, when I got here, there were so many like it's like tragically spiritually hip people. Do you know, that's how it occurred to me, is like it was almost fake. Do you know? So I mean, my mind was going insane. I remember the first time I went to a channeling, and there was a woman sitting there, and she just seemed like a normal woman, and then all of a sudden, like, something seemed to happen to her, and then she got this accent, and it just, like, I was so skeptical I couldn't even stay in the room. And again, now it's like I see all these things so differently, and I perceive them all so differently. But Benjamin Zander, I don't know if you ever heard of the book Art of Possibility, one of my favorite books, but he had a quote in it that speaks to this so beautifully. And he said, skeptical people are only deeply passionate people who are scared of being disappointed again. And looking back, this was me. It was like my mind was working overtime with all this skeptical commentary, like on everything. And it's like I was in my head so much. And most people, like, me, it's like we give our minds too much power. And we've got to transform this into giving the mind something productive to do and start shifting the way we perceive it so we can relax enough to open to true spirituality. And again, here's a simple way to start. And it's to know that your mind, like every negative thought, is a gift. But first, you've got to learn to catch the negative thought in order to unwrap the gift. So to do this, what I love to do, again, because we all have that underlying anxiety, is to start kind of getting conscious of it. So catch the anxiety or the discomfort and use it as an alarm. So once you hear the alarm and catch the discomfort, what I suggest is you take a breath and ask, what's missing for me in this situation? What's missing for me in this situation? Because if there wasn't something you thought you would lose or something you wanted that you didn't think you were going to get, you wouldn't feel uncomfortable. So something is missing for you. So again, just take a breath, uncomfortable, or as an alarm, take a breath, and then ask yourself, what's missing? But that discomfort, again, is a gift because it leads you to what you do want. And if you don't know what you want, you can't get it. There's a story that my husband and I tell all the time in our workshops about this woman and her husband. And her husband worked all the time, and he never came home. And he was like, she never saw him. So what she said to him was, hey, stop working so much. So the next night, and he was like, oh, what a good idea. So she thought, oh, finally, right? And the next night he wasn't home, and he came home late again. And she said, where were you? And he said, well, you said to stop working so much, so I went golfing. So again, unless you know what you want, you can't get it, so if she really knew what she wanted, she missed him at home. So she could have said, I want you home, but instead he was out golfing. So when you read my book, there are also a lot of other different ways I talk about, and a lot of ways that people can copy as well. But I love that golfing story. Isn't that great?
It's a good story. Beth, you're very passionate about your subject, and we already got a lot of the wealth of practical techniques, which I really like, because talking about stuff is good, but what's the practical application? And so you gave us those steps that are very important, and if we really apply them, things will start changing. So what's an easy way for people to get started?
Well, again, it's so I am so passionate about this. Every time I get and I start talking to people, I can feel it. Again, that's that body access. I love that feeling. And it's so important to me that people get how to connect and trust with their inner, get connected to and trust their inner guidance, because the world will change. That I want to make it easy for people to start right away. And my book is a great place to start because, again, like I said, there's lots of things that people can find out about. But what I'm doing is when you buy my book, I'm creating a 3-part video series about these 3 access points. And each of the parts of the series will give examples and ways to practice getting in touch with these access points. So what I'm doing is that when you buy the book, all you have to do at this point, because it's not created, all you need to do is buy the book, send me an email at bethbanningauthor@gmail.com. That's bethbanningauthor@gmail.com with a receipt of the book. And I'll put you on the list. As soon as the 3-part series comes out, I'll send it to you right away. And then this way you can start playing with those access points as well. But be ready, because your world will start to change. That's really exciting.
And I can attest to this. Your world will start changing if you don't just read the book and watch the videos, but you apply all this wonderful, invaluable information. So Beth Banning, author@gmail.com. Make sure you grab this offer because it's really good information and it's really life-changing information. So I totally agree with that. Most people are struggling with and juggling with a lot of responsibilities, a lot of things. And here we are telling people, get another book and do another thing. So what would you, if those people who are worried that it's way too much for them to do, and they are basically maybe intimidated even to plunge into the unknown world if they haven't done it before, what would be your advice?
My advice is this path is not for the faint of heart. Because what's shocking is that trusting your inner guidance is so disruptive. It just is. You're going to upset so much of what you think is true. And it's going to be awesome. You're going to let go of so much of what you think mattered. And it will be awesome. But first, you are going to be uncomfortable, because the truth is, and it's like I could tell you all these stories, but the truth is that change feels uncomfortable. And that's the ironic thing, is that you have to start experiencing everything without judgment, without good and bad. But as you practice, and this is what Irina was just talking about, and integrate what you learn in this book and the video series, you'll start to trust yourself. You'll start to trust your guidance. You will find the peace you're looking for. But it's not only about good things happening. And I can't say this often enough. It's about experiencing life, all of life, every bit of it.
An additional bonus, you will save a lot of money because you won't go to psychics that often to get an advice from somebody else when you know all the answers. So save the money, do your own thing, and
so
get the answers.
There you go. That's so great. I love it.
I know, Beth, it's fun talking with you and hearing all this great information, and really time flies so fast. We've been together for a long time right now, so we need to finish, and I have one more question for you. So you and your husband work with people from all over the world, and obviously you're passionate about it, you love it. So what do you find most fulfilling about this work?
I think it's the what I hear back from people. It's like when I can hear from people, oh my God, I've been wanting to trust myself and now I can. That's the true spiritual leap. That is the next level of it, of like evolution. And it's like, I can't wait for every person on this planet to get started with that. And I know you're about that too. And that's really it. It's like, let's go, people. It's time to evolve and evolve inward. That's what's the most wonderful thing for me.
Amen.
Amen.
It's beautifully said. I think it's such an urgent message that every single one needs to hear and apply. And I applaud you for your journey, for your spiritual development, your struggles and your victories, and that the fact that you have made the commitment and chose, because not everybody chooses, but you have chosen to be of service to the world and to share this message. And so my deep gratitude for you.
Oh, thank
Well
you
said.
so much.
Well
Thank you.
said.
So fun.
Great interview. Thank you so much, Beth. And again, please remember, you need to go to Beth Banning author at gmail.com. Send her the receipt, right? I think I'm saying
Just
it right.
any kind of proof that you bought
Proof
the book.
that you purchased her book, Interviewed by God, and make sure you implement. Don't just sit and read, because as I always say, you cannot learn how to play the piano by reading about playing the piano. You have to implement, you have to read and then practice. So that's why you need the book, you need the video series, and you need to apply it to yourselves. And then your life will change, and you will say, thank you so much, Beth Banning.
Thank you, Irina Baker.
All right, and now we are done for right now, but I'm sure we will be in touch later and get more and great information. So thank you so much, Beth.
You're welcome.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everybody enjoy your day and make sure to implement. Goodbye.